Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Relief Factor Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. You're in Central or Eastern time. Good evening if you're in the West Coast or the Rocky Mountains.
Or hello if you're nowhere.
Yes, or wherever you're listening, streaming, or later on to the podcast. Whatever time it is where you are, we hope you're having a good time.
Yeah.
All right, my audio cut of the week. And I'm saying my because I didn't ask you yet.
All right, I don't care, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. It would be our, but I didn't throw it. We didn't have time because our pre-show meeting was so busy, I forgot to bring this one up.
All right.
This is the guy from the Cato Institute that would not answer the question on sanctuary cities or whether illegal immigration should be illegal. He just would not do it. He was playing games with both Lindsey Graham and Senator Kennedy. But here we go. You ready?
Okay.
All right.
When I talk about population purge, I'm talking about the fact that they're trying to deport U.S.-born citizens, people born here. They are trying to deport them as well. So it's not a mass deportation agenda. It is also an agenda intended to reduce the population of the United States, including U.S.-born people.
Thank you.
These are not hyperbolic statements. I appreciate you reading my account. I appreciate
Here's
your
the good
research.
news.
What planet did you just... Wait a minute, Mr. Chairman. What planet did you just parachute in from?
No. Hey, guys.
You trigger my gag reflex, Mr. Beaver.
I mean, that's the Cato Institute. That's how far insane have they gone? They used to be a legitimate conservative libertarian think tank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not anymore.
He's not saying they're trying to denaturalize naturalized citizens. That has come up, people that commit or wish to commit terrorist acts or have been convicted of terrorism that are naturalized. I still don't know how the Supreme Court would look at that, but that's an entirely different. He's not saying that. What he's saying is basically the Trump administration is attempting to deport U.S.-born citizens. And then he says it's not a hyperbolic statement.
Right.
Well, of course it is. Because you say it is, you have zero credibility, and for God's sakes, get a new haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a flat-out lie. And, you got to keep it going on the left, and I guess we can put Cato Institute on the left now.
No.
No?
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Isn't that synonymous with left? What did I miss? Those two are interchangeable. Yeah, it's just insanity. And but I guess that's the play now. I guess that's the play. Over the top insanity. They're not going to debate anything, but, they have been avoiding any debate, for so long. I actually think we're at the point where the left doesn't know how to debate. Because knowing how to debate would also require critical thinking to the point of making sure what you say is going to follow through, right? I mean, they jump to the whole, well, you're a bigot, you're a racist, and everything else, just to take the debate off the table. And because they thought it would end the debate. Now just go bat soup crazy. Well, we may be to the point where it's been so long, this newer generation just doesn't know how to debate. They don't even know what the truth is themselves. They have no idea. And I think that's where we are. I think we're just at the point of them being so bat soup crazy that there's no thought put into debate. You don't have any critical thinking skills whatsoever. Otherwise, you would know that that's a stupid answer that's going to be destroyed. In a moment, it's going to be destroyed.
Sort of
And Senator John Kennedy did just that. What planet did you just parachute in from?
Yeah.
What in the hell is wrong with you?
I know. It's like you can't.
They can't debate.
And we've said this because when you take Trump out of the debate and you take the major 10 issues that he believes in, the vast majority. Now, we talked about the vast majority of, what was it? It was over 60% back when the president took office, believed that anybody in the country illegally should be deported. Maybe it was even above 60%. When they attempted to do it, the public said, "Well, we don't like to see how how it's made."
Right.
We don't like this. We don't like violence in the streets, and therefore, if that's what it takes to do it, what they're saying is we don't want to see how the sausage is made.
Right.
Just do it,
right,
and keep it quiet. And basically, that's the Homeland philosophy. Did you see that? I saw the article that Homeland is trying to communicate now and have a relationship with Markwayne Mullin, because apparently he didn't talk to Noem for a year. Yeah. They couldn't even talk. Now, whether the story is true, I haven't heard him say whether the story is true or not, but it wouldn't be surprising if that was the case.
Yeah. Well, we know for sure that Kristi Noem's approach was not the same as Homeland's. I mean, it was polar opposite, actually. You know, the question we had from that approach under Kristi Noem was, why would you do that? Why would you put the agents, first of all, in a situation like that? If that approach has people keenly aware in all these areas where these protesters are going to come out and obstruct, if you think that's a win, you're wrong. You know, it's hard to know what comes from the top anymore. You know, the story that came out with the DOJ and the thing on the lawyers and President Trump saying the other day, well, the story came out the other day. I don't know when he said it exactly, but he said, I didn't sign off on that. I don't know why we did this. And because the DOJ had to back off their move. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute here. You know, again, where's the mixed message? Because going in January of 25, it didn't seem there was one mixed message, no confusion at all.
No.
It appeared. And then as he filled out his cabinet, it appeared, okay, everybody seems to be on board for his agenda, wherever that's going. And right now, the only one I can say, I guess Hegseth, but aside from that, Marco Rubio. And as Secretary of State, you're going to have, the job requires you to do what Marco Rubio is doing, even though John Kerry did the opposite and Hillary Clinton didn't care to do the job. Marco Rubio's doing the job as you should as Secretary of State so far.
Well, you saw the story came out that that I think Axios said the story. The White House denied it. They said it's not true. That Trump came out and said, stop saying mass deportation. Stop using those words.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. I saw a story yesterday from Buffalo. You know, they're building the new stadium. 5 people were detained that they're in the country illegally. Now, the Democrats all jumped on this and said, they're in the country legally. They're in the country legally. And then they started saying, well, if they're in the country legally, and the ICE is saying no.
Right.
You know, these people overstayed visas.
Right.
And the other two, I think they said, were in illegally. And it was interesting the way that the media was covering was, of course, that, you know, the blame goes to the Trump administration. But you look at the responses, even from liberal Buffalo, and it was like, look, they're in the country illegally. If they find them, you know.
Right.
And there was no confrontation. You know, I mean, that nobody in the public knew about it. And that's what we said should be done. That was the problem that we had. Don't put these ICE members or Border Patrol members in danger. How were these leaks happening that were going on all the time?
Right.
Why were the people there? This is a large country. You can do all this stuff. You can do this without the confrontation, and that's what we asked the question, because I believe that people like Stephen Miller and Noem wanted the confrontations to go public.
Right.
They wanted it to be on the nightly news. They thought it would benefit them.
Right. They thought the bat soup crazy protesters would work in their favor as they were demonstrating that they were going to obstruct at every turn. And that started, right away. And the leaks is kind of a separate issue, but it plays into everything. Because remember going back to the apartment complex in Colorado when they got there, this was early on. And that violent gang that had taken over that complex, and they were gone. Somebody gave them a heads up. And so you have to assume there's leaks within your organization, but also you have to take the approach that is considers that and then goes beyond that in order to make sure you're going to be able to carry out the mission of finding whoever it might be that you're looking for, your targets, and also not putting those ICE agents in danger.
But when you look at overall, if you take Trump's name out of it, on all the major issues, people favor what he believes in the United States. That's what's maddening for most of us, is the fact when the public is on your side, yet you cannot implement or communicate effectively that when you do it, the public agrees with you.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, well, no, we want this done, but we don't want him doing it.
Right.
Now, you can look at it and say, okay, there's a problem with the public.
Yeah, and there is.
And there is. And we said, yes, there is a problem with the public. But when you look at, I just looked to see if there was any apology from Paul Begala yet, on the whole lobster thing. When he was saying, what are you talking about? I mean, they just got burned big time on that, and a lot of stories written on it. It's like, and one of the things that came out of it is the fact that the left is so ignorant about how the military works.
Yeah.
They don't care. Right. There's been a ton of articles written on that. We read one yesterday from National Review. Luther Ray Abel wrote it and said, that's the thing. All they care about the military is can we use it to our political advantage? A death, okay, good. We can use that to our political advantage. Right. But when it comes to actually understanding or wanting to understand how the military works, they don't want to know how the military works. They don't care how the military works. It's simply another political arm, they believe, of the federal government that they can use for their own advantage, even when lying about it.
Yeah, right.
But I just looked it up. I just did a quick search. Did Paul Begala apologize yet? No. Well, I didn't see. Did Scott Jennings on CNN go after him? Did that come up? That's something I would never let go if it was Scott Jennings. I did searches of so far social media. I haven't seen if Scott Jennings said, look, Begala came on here and lied.
Right.
Or threw out false information.
Right.
And you people just let this thing go as if it didn't happen. Let's go to the next thing. No, we're going to stick with this for a while.
Right. No, I mean, it appeared it was being, if you just look at all the stories that were written by the leftist media about it, it appeared, well, these are going to be the new talking points.
And we said expect this happening. Well, you saw now, the whole story that came out. Police warn, ABC exclusive. FBI warns police in California that Iran wants to retaliate for U.S. attacks by launching drones against the West Coast, according to alert reviewed by ABC News. What they left out was unverified reports.
Yeah, right.
They were simply saying, hey, look, we got these unverified reports. We can't verify it. We don't think it's true at all, but we just want you to know but it was one unverified report that they got that was it. And the White House came in and goes, look, there is no evidence that this exists. And you and I questioned that yesterday, whether Iran has the ability to actually do that.
Right.
We went, well, I don't know.
Well, and
is that something that the Iranian regime is throwing out in order to, politically, affect public opinion in the United States?
And to further terrorize, which is what terrorists do.
Right.
I mean, put that out there. I saw a couple of analysts that said, look, it's a broad scope. There is nothing specific here. But the media latches onto it as if it's something real every time. And again, they leave out the most important part. Even when it says, sources say, source stories mean diddly and squat. You'll know it by the end of the week. Sometimes it takes that long for the truth to get to the surface as to what's going on. But I don't trust any one source anymore. But again, you just assume, right? Head on a swivel.
But the left, it was the left that killed sources in journalism.
Oh, yeah.
Russia collusion, that was a completely source story con job on the American public.
Yep.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Here's an audio cut for you. All right. This is on CNN last night. This is or yesterday. Keith Boykin, former Clinton advisor. Listen to this. All right. Here we go.
And the same thing happened when we saw 9/11. That was because of the United States involvement in the first Gulf War and had a long-term effect.
The U.S.
I'm not blaming the United States. I'm saying that.
Sounds like
I'm
it.
saying that what? Well, let me finish.
Sounds
I'm
like
saying that when we take actions across the world, that there are consequences that we don't anticipate that can happen years later. And so when we wonder why people are coming after us, attacking us, because we were attacking them.
What did the first World Trade Center bombing? What was the cause of that one?
I'm sorry?
What was the cause of the first World Trade Center bombing?
I think that's irrelevant to this moment. I think
I think we're going to move on. I think you just defeated our argument.
Let's move. And that's what Abby Phillips does that all the time.
Yeah.
Does it all the time.
Right.
Well, we're going to move on from that.
Yeah.
That isn't. Yes, it is.
It's not relevant. It absolutely is. You want to go back to the beginning. Oh, you don't want to go back to the actual beginning.
You're trying to say that the United States is on the wrong side of morality against
That's right.
radical Islam.
Exactly.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Relief Factor Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Coming up here in just a little over a minute, the two terrorist acts yesterday and how a Soros-backed DA is attempting to blame the object and not the motivation. That coming up.
Aches and pains, they're just a part of life as you grow old. You know, I believe that for the longest time until I started taking Relief Factor. I developed the old man grunt, you know, when you would stand up, or you sit down, and you would sit down slowly. Not anymore after taking Relief Factor. I take it every day. I want you to get those same results. There's something you can do about your pain. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free, research-based formula that was created to help the body's natural inflammatory response function. And you need Relief Factor in your life. Just 4 key ingredients going to work for you every single day. I take it every day. I think you should too. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start, just $19.95. Visit relieffactor.com, call 800-4-RELIEF. Relieffactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF. Use Red Eye at the drop-down for your 3-week quick start at $19.95.
I love Old Man Grunt.
I just it's a comedian. A comedian told me that his son, who's a toddler, he was imitating his dad. And the comedian actually does this in a bit too, but he says, no, this little guy imitates his grandfather all the time. So when he sits down, the little kid goes, ah, or when he stands up, he goes, ah, because he's spending so much time with his grandfather. You know, it probably was the case even when my grandkids were smaller. They probably, he just makes those noises.
You know what I suggest if you've ever done the old man grunt,
yeah,
in the morning, you have to watch the first 2 minutes of North Dallas 40.
Yeah,
that movie from the 70s.
Yeah,
or what's his name? I can't think of his name. The actor.
I
got mind blank here on the actor. Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte.
And he's a wide receiver for the team.
Yeah.
And they just play. This was like a day after the game, and him getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I know we've all felt that way at some point.
He was perfect for that part.
He really was.
You know, you and I have actually worked with former pro athletes. And you know, they walk a little slower. That's not especially football players. We've actually seen them in those moments walking in the hallways back in the day when they had a studio. We actually used to have the same parent company as ESPN, and you would see those former pro ball players. Many of them just move very slowly.
Yeah, because
of all of the things that they went through, you know, to play games.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
That now at this age, that I never seriously got in, that I didn't have the ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, excuse me. I didn't get the opportunity because they wouldn't let me play against women. So I never got the opportunity to play.
I'm undefeated against women.
I'm undefeated.
Undefeated.
Oh my gosh, that has to be the best quote of the week.
No, that's the quote of the. It's a contender for quote of the year, and it's only March. My gosh, there's nothing wrong with men playing in women's sports. I did it. I wrestled women. In fact, I'm undefeated against women. My gosh, that seriously is an Andy Kaufman moment. It was just as funny as Andy Kaufman doing it back in the day. Man, that's insane.
What is it? It's the guy running for Senate in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think Plattner.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Yeah. There's no problem with guys playing in girls' sports.
And this whole radical gender thing is just a billionaire trying to change the topic from high taxes.
Yeah.
And I know I I wrestled women in 2003, and I was undefeated.
I was undefeated. Goes on to brag about it. I'm undefeated. Oh, my gosh.
But I'm so happy that I never didn't have the ability to play professional sports. I don't care. To me now, as an old guy, being able to just have, just a few aches and pains here is so much more preferable to, taking those hits that, you see some of those hits. For example, some of the hits in hockey.
Yeah.
You're like, my gosh, you could hit like 1,000 when your career, probably what, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 times?
Right.
And it's like, it gets to you when you're in your 50s. By the way, one of the things in the North Dallas 40, the late, great Ron Chapman is on the radio when Nick Nolte wakes up.
Right, yeah.
And I just always love that. Mm-hmm. And I'll play it for some people, and I just love hearing Ron because when I was in Texas in the 80s, that was like, wow, Ron Chapman was just the king. And then I'll never, ever forget, I think it was probably 2002 or 2003. And there I am at the State Fair of Texas doing my local radio show from WBAP here. And this guy comes walking up to me, and he just says, "Hey, Gary." He goes, "Nice to meet you, Ron Chapman." I go, "The Ron Chapman?" He goes, "Yeah." I'll never forget. I get a little bit, it's the only time I met him, but I still get a little bit emotional because he really emphasized to me that what we get to do here in talk radio. And it helped make me rethink the entire job that I do because I never wanted to do this. I didn't search to be a talk radio host. An owner, the story, forced me to do it. Mm-hmm. And he said, you get the opportunity to express exactly what you think on every topic every single day. Most of us never get a chance to do it. Always appreciate that you get to do that. It always makes me a little bit emotional because then when he died a few years later, it just made me so sad because it was one of the things, it made me rethink everything that in this country, and we don't get it anymore, but we used to get, well, it's the military-industrial complex that's telling you what to do, and people really find it incredible that really for 99%, well, every major corporation that I ever worked for, I worked for some local owners and a general manager one time that once said, I don't like what you're talking about, and I don't like your opinion. I go, I don't care. You hired me. I'm not going to give my opinion, and it's not a radical opinion. In fact, I would say you have the radical opinion here, but besides that one time, never.
Right. Now, I will say on the military-industrial complex thing, we know when there's going to be, a bunch of serious stories because there's steak and lobster in the break room. Ooh, this is going to be a long night.
But it's really, when you think about it, and I do often now, I think about it more as I get older because I think about, I didn't know what the hell I was doing the first 15 years in this business.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're trying to figure out.
I still don't know what the hell you're doing.
Well, okay, but I do.
Well, I guess that's all that matters.
I understand my insanity. You don't need to understand it. But I didn't the first 15.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
No, but you know how it is when you first get when somebody tells you go on the air and give your beliefs.
There's a threshold you've got to cross.
What?
There's a very clear threshold you've got to cross, and if you don't do it, then you shouldn't be in it. If you don't want to do it, then you shouldn't be in it.
And it's not the same probably now, but I think the majority of us, when you go back 30 years ago, 30 to 40 years ago, when modern talk radio started, a lot of those talk show hosts came from music radio.
Yeah, right.
And I know music talk show hosts that bailed on it. Mm-hmm. They were pretty good, but they bailed on it because they said, I'm just not comfortable doing this. I've been in music radio for such a long time. I know a couple of guys I know one guy that was told to me after he was doing it for a year, I knew his boss and said I was this close to firing him because he would not he would get on the air. And I did it to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really left. I'm not really right. I need to hear all the, the blah, 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 blah. Who said it the other day? Somebody said it the other day. Oh, what's his name from Landman? I'm a radical moderate. Shut up.
Yeah. Right.
Say what your opinion is, and then I can tell you what you are. Stop with the radical moderate. I take what both sides say, and this is where Independent Bob and I used to always get into the arguments a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, I look at both sides. You have a definitive right-wing opinion, and there's a greater morality. I look at both sides of the issue, and then I come down on the moderate side. What the hell does that mean? Where do you stand on the issue?
Yeah,
I don't care. Don't explain to me, in an umbrella way, without getting to the specifics. Get to the specifics. What do you believe, and why do you believe it?
Right. Right.
And I will admit, sometimes we get too caught up in the labels because the labels change. Over the years, what a conservative has changed.
Right.
I hear it all the time. Well, this guy's a good conservative. And I'm like, 20 years ago, they're a populist liberal.
Well, the advent of social media really now requires, and the far left, the radicals, they require famous people to be on the left. They do.
Yeah.
It's, Kevin James.
Oh.
The recent comments by Kevin James. Basically, I'm just going to stay out of it. And then all of a sudden, he's the devil for not wanting to toe the line for the radical left.
Right. He's secret MAGA.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a very funny bit about Nick Nolte and meeting Nick Nolte. It's a hilarious bit. But it is that thing. And there are plenty of Hollywood types. I know someone in Hollywood that's had a pretty great career from Texas, and for the longest time, and I'm guessing still today, couldn't talk about going to Texas and going hunting for deer in the hill country. He would just tell his colleagues in Hollywood, I'm going to see my mom in Texas. And then he and his mom would grab a gun and go shoot some deer.
Billy Bob Thornton's the one that was, I think he was on Rogan.
Yeah.
I'm a radical moderate.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know what that means.
You have a set of beliefs, and
I love him. I think he's a great actor. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think he's really great. One of the seasons of Fargo, the TV series, I mean, he just crushed it. I haven't seen Landman, but I hear nothing but great things about it. And those are, those are that's the situation, kind of getting back to what Ron Chapman said. There are like personalities in radio where you can't come out and talk about what you believe. It's a certain job in radio where you've got to be the likable guy.
Yeah.
And Ron, I was going to say, back in North Dallas 40, back in his heyday, actually, Ron Chapman's heyday was every day of his professional life.
Yeah.
And so but you think about that approach of, well, I don't want to mess things up. I don't want to screw things up. Steve Harvey was on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and Jerry made a joke that would be considered to be kind of maybe a little bit of a rude joke, and Steve Harvey said, I'm not going there. And he goes, oh, come on, you can say that. Jerry was telling him, oh, come on. He goes, no. I have a day job. He's game show host, TV host, all these things. He goes, these people that work there every day with me, they require me to show up every day and to, and so, no, I'm, I have to respect that. And I thought, well, all right, that's one way. That tells you how much freedom we have here, even in the day of social media.
Yeah.
We've got that kind of freedom to do what
it made me very grateful.
Yeah. I appreciate it every day.
And every day I'm more grateful for what I get to do.
For sure.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, where's the president going to go? Are there any clues? One of the questions is, how long is this going to go on? You and I said this when it started. We weren't looking at 10 days to solve the problem.
No.
We said, let's look at a month to 5 weeks to see where it goes at that particular point.
Right.
We have always said that, and we still hold by that. We said it's always a challenge to try to do regime change without doing boots on the ground.
Right.
We've always stated that.
Yeah.
But is it possible to do it? Because in this situation, you're not attempting to install the government. There's already a government in waiting, and do the people, will they revolt at that point and take over their own government?
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Relief Factor Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi. Welcome to a Friday.
Happy Friday.
All right. The president said this morning that the U.S. was totally destroying and killing Iran, warning to watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. We are totally destroying the terrorist regime in Iran, militarily, economically, and otherwise. Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is no longer. Missiles, drones, and everything else are being disseminated, and their leaders are being wiped out from the face of the earth. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, and plenty of time. Trump also appeared to signal significant action later on Friday, writing, "Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, and now I, as the 47th president of the United States, am killing them. What a great honor it is to do so," the president said. You know, you and I talked about earlier where he had said on True Social, and I'm not looking at True Social, I'm looking at Fox News. They reported when he came out and said, I'll do the story by how they wrote it. Okay, here we go. Trump, the president, argued on Thursday that higher oil prices caused by the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran actually helps the U.S. reversing course after previously touting lower energy prices. The United States is the largest oil producer in the world by far, so when oil prices go up, we make a lot of money. But of far greater interest and importance to me as president is stopping an evil empire, Iran, from having nuclear weapons and destroying the Middle East and indeed the world. I won't ever let that happen again. Thank you for paying attention to this matter. The first thing I saw when he said that is when you're telling the American people right now, when prices is everything, that, you know, the price of oil going up is good for the country. That's one of the reasons that Biden lost. Yeah. Because they remember when they came out and said inflation is good because people are spending more money.
Right.
But that's, you know, I went, and I went, wait a minute. Is he doing that because he has made the decision we're going to go in and we are going to destroy them completely? That's been one of the questions. Is it just going to be bombing and then pull out and then just say, well, okay, we weren't able to do the regime change. Has he come to the decision? Because if you're saying oil prices are good, are you communicating that they're going to be high for a little bit because you plan on finishing this entire thing?
It could be.
And again, we know it could change tomorrow.
Right. It could be.
The messaging
but using the word "we" make a lot of money, people don't feel that when they're at the pump. So politically, that doesn't work for you.
I'm not saying it works politically. I'm saying
no. I'm right. Answering him, not you.
Okay.
And so when you make a statement and you say "we," you know, to your point, there are a couple of things that need to happen. There's one tiny island where where basically all of the exports of Iran's oil are moving off of that island. You control that island or take out the operation of that island, and it's over. And then you're basically, their economy implodes very quickly from where it is now, which is very low. And so I've wondered if there's going to be any movement there. We do know that, Iran, it's saying we have control of the Strait of Hormuz. You can't come through the strait without our permission. All of this. Those are all just words. Also, Khamenei's, who's the new supreme leader, has been issuing statements that are being read. And the question is he in a coma? That came up because the word got out that he was injured in the initial attack and that he had part of a leg amputated, that he's been in a coma, in and out of a coma, and that someone else is writing these words in order to keep the regime together. Mm-hmm. And so you've got a lot of things right now that's going to require the intel community to put the pieces of the puzzle together in order to decide. And I generally speaking, I sense that this is what you're going to have to do anyway. You let the dust settle for a minute to find out what is left, who's left, and how deep the roots are once you chop off the head of the snake. You've got to find out where the loyalties lie. And then you've got to decide what your mission is going to be. Because an ongoing years and years and years effort certainly isn't in the cards. Politically, it's not going to work for you, but it's also not going to accomplish your goals if the regime is not done. If the regime isn't done, it means their ambitions to have nukes isn't over. And your entire goal right there is for naught. Everything, the entire mission is for naught if you don't finish it. And I suspect they do have a plan. I think there's going to be a second, third wave. I think there's going to be, again, all these stages. I don't know how you put boots on the ground. When the news got out that the Kurds were essentially going to be boots on the ground, at least temporarily, it was like, okay, is that going to work? Is that part of the plan, or did that just happen along the way? We do know we have the support of other nations, but they're also not going to put boots on the ground.
Well, let me ask you
we might
this.
get access to their countries in order to get access to Iran, but they're not going.
Let me ask you this: does the public consider special forces boots on the ground?
No, it's a great question, I think.
And I say that because they're saying that some of the bunkers, we may not be, again, speculation. If we can't get to some of the bunkers, will special forces do it? Where there is any type of nuclear material, will special forces eventually take that over and protect it from anybody in the regime? I don't see American troops creating peace on the streets. That I don't see. I don't see. I don't see American troops as a peacekeeping force. Do I see special forces in an operation like this being considered? Absolutely, I do. But to get to the first point, the statement I knew you weren't debating me on the thing. My point was when he talked about the fact that oil prices are good for America. It's, that we, benefit from that because we make a lot of money. Look, you couldn't sell that on tariffs. Why is he trying to sell that now? It's because it's again, hypothesis. It's because he's going to cut. His goal now is to get rid of. He's made the decision to get rid of the regime. He knows oil prices are going to be high until this ends, and therefore he views it as the only argument that he can make.
Right.
Yeah, you can't sell it politically that high oil prices are good. There's not one consumer who buys gasoline is going to agree with that unless you believe that, well, what he's saying is this is going to be temporary, which it will be. This is going to be temporary until we cut off the – I think that would be a better way to put it, because nobody buys the fact that we will be making money, the oil companies will be making money.
Right.
And is that bad for America? No, because then they can invest it more, and we can even create more energy. But he didn't explain it that way.
Right.
You know, he made it that if they benefit. We might indirectly down the road, but we don't benefit right now out of our wallets and pocketbooks. But I guess the point I'm meant, does that show? And then the statement afterwards that he has now made the regime, or not the regime, he's made the decision. We're getting rid of the regime one way or another. We cannot sit there and let them stay, because the people we've got to get the people that are willing to revolt. I think it was was on CNN where the New York Times talked to an engineer that said the Iranian people don't want the bombing to end. If the bombing ends right now, they believe the regime's in power. You need to keep the bombing up. The whole thing about, the school or whatever, they understand there's going to be collateral damage. The point was the majority of Iranians know that there's going to be collateral damage. It's the American left that wants to use that, to attack the president. But the Iranian people themselves actually want it to continue because they believe if it ends right now, the regime isn't ended. And so
their future is done.
Their future is done at that point, because it will just be even more brutal from this point on. The other thing is, because I've seen a lot of discussion about, how come the Americans, they didn't, and Israelis didn't see the fact that the Strait of Hormuz could be a problem. Well, they probably did. And talking about the island that you're talking about, this is a different type of war, because you're attempting to get rid of the regime without destroying the infrastructure of the people. If you can get regime change, let's say you get rid of everybody, there's a revolution, the people are out on the streets, they welcome back, because this would be your hope. This is what Trump lined out. Your hope would be, and the Iranian people are excited about it, and the opposition groups are excited about it. It's not that they're not in agreement with the president.
Right.
But if you get there, you do want at that point the oil money available immediately or as soon as possible. So you might not want to, unless it's a desperate last chance that you can't defeat them unless you get rid of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be destroying the infrastructure because you want the country to rebound as quickly as possible. Again, that is my best guess. I have no verification of it, but just what they've lined out as to what they want. You want Iran to be able to rebound immediately if you can get rid of the regime.
Karg Island is this island that I was referring to, and the actual play wouldn't be to take it out. It would basically be control it. You would do that with a naval blockade.
Right.
And if you can take control of that island, then you preserve what would be required for the rebuilding of the nation under new leadership after the regime is gone, because they will need those exports in order to pay for rebuilding and also growing their economy going forward. But if you can take control of Karg Island through a naval blockade, which we're very capable of doing, then you can control those ports along the strait. There was a warning given to civilians and others to kind of get out of the way, because it basically that coming from the U.S. That report got out, and that tells you that they're going to go after these mine ships. We already know they're already doing that, but they don't want the mines in the Strait of Hormuz. They want, again, it's not necessarily business as usual, but they want things flowing in the Strait. But if you can control that island, Karg Island, until the regime is done, you can choke them out, and you can have a greater chance going forward for, again, rebuilding and then improving the economic status of their nation and the people of Iran. You know, one of the things I considered the other day was you see all these pictures of citizens from Iran, you know, holding the picture of the former Ayatollah, the one that was killed, and they seem to be in mourning. That's to, I think, a large extent going to be generational, but it's also very limited. And you have to keep in mind, because the liberal media was, you know, putting those pictures out there, the majority of Iranians want this kind of change and know that they don't have a future without this kind of change. Not that there won't be or aren't any citizens who follow the Ayatollah and believe in that kind of rule. I don't know. I can't explain that. But the overwhelming majority of people in Iran do not want that kind of rule. I think some of those who show public support for the former Ayatollah and have in the past before he was killed, I think do that out of intimidation.
Well, you probably have, you know, I think it's roughly a little over 90 million people in Iran.
Yeah.
You may have 10 million people or 20 million people that benefit and have benefited from the regime, both economically speaking and because their families are employed by the government.
Right.
That entire, you know, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of schematic of who benefits from it. You know, there is a point, though, when they finally realize they're at the point of no return. It's not going to happen anymore, that they have to make a decision.
Right.
But I can see, you know, when you had that couple of thousand people come out and, you know, support the, you know, new supreme leader, I went, well, yeah, you're going to get that.
Well, I think
people whose lives have depended on the regime are going to defend the regime until they realize it's not in their best interest anymore.
And I think it can be, in fact, all of the above. People who either work or have family members that are working in the military or in the government that have to be loyal and have to express their loyalty, and also those who are intimidated by the regime and believe, I've got to do this in order to preserve my own life along the way. I can't be seen as a protester until they're gone.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we're looking at.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
General Conservation Reserve Program acreage enrollment continues, and USDA Farm Production and Conservation Undersecretary Richard Fordyce says, unlike past years of CRP sign-up,
we do have probably a smaller window as far as the number of acres that we can include in that general sign-up.
As statutory acres enrolled in CRP are approaching its cap number.
You've got a little over 1 million acres to play with.
Within the 27 million acre statutory cap. The latest general CRP enrollment period continues through April 17th, with enrollment conducted through local Farm Service Agency offices. Meanwhile, the deadline is approaching for the first batching period of applications under the Continuous Conservation Reserve Program, March 20th. Continuous CRP applications submitted after that date will be considered in subsequent batching periods, depending on acreage availability. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And the reason I said that, those two statements from the president last night on True Social, again, there's no mixing of words.
Yeah, right.
You know, we're gonna get regime change here.
Right.
We're gonna get rid of these people.
Right.
This has been 40. He lays it out again, which is why I've said I have no idea why they haven't done a primetime address on this. No idea why they haven't.
Should have been done within a few days.
Yeah.
I don't know if they don't see the benefit of it. If they say, okay, look, we can do everything since Truth Social, every Truth Social post is covered by every media group. Maybe we don't need to do it, but I think you do. I think you need to do that on top of everything else.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
We're Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. A story that came out in the last day or so on the tariff refunds.
Right.
Really interesting that you're not going to have to file a lawsuit to get it back.
No, Judge Eaton in the case this is the trade court judge is saying Customs already has a system in place, which they do. What happens is the importers initially pay an estimate, right? And then through a process called liquidation, which takes up to a year or so, it's determined if that estimate was correct or not. If they paid too much in that estimate, Customs issues them a refund. If they didn't pay enough, then they have to pay Customs more. It's that simple. He says, so you've already got this. There are anywhere from, the estimates are 72 to 75 million entries in terms of imports during that tariff period that Trump put into place. And what Customs is saying now is, we have no idea how we're going to process 72 to 75 million.
To 330,000 importers, they say, who
Right.
got hit. And there's 75 basically 75 million transactions.
And he's saying, well, you're gonna have to do it. And that's what they came back and he put in place this 180 days. Basically, if they've gone through liquidation, then they're owed the refund right away. If they haven't, then they'll go through that process. And he put this 180-day timeline on, which basically tells all these importers, you have 180 days to file. But again, it appears that, well, if they imported during that time, you've already filed. He also said, Eaton, the judge here, said, we don't need them to file lawsuits. This is going to be a refund, and it's going to be, and he used the words, every penny. And Customs already knows how to do this. We're not going to require them to file a lawsuit. And he said, imagine the short period of time, because 2,000 cases in 60 days. They can't do 2,000 cases in 60 days. And it was brought up by representation for Customs that, well, just as Justice Amy Coney Barrett said in her ruling, this is going to be messy. And he says, I don't think so. The process is already there. It's going to be tedious. There's no doubt. Nobody can make the case if you're looking at 72 to 75 million entries. It's going to be tedious.
Well, but the point I think the judge is making is, if you did it one way, you can just reverse it.
Yes.
If you have the account, and the Trump administration said the system is more than 40% developed. and that additional performance testing will take place in the next few weeks.
Right.
So you're not talking about years for this money to be
No.
refunded, especially if you've already done, what do they call it?
Liquidation.
The liquidation.
Yeah.
That to me, that's the wrong word to use.
Yeah, it's just a word they give the process.
Because liquidation sounds like you're filing bankruptcy or something, but it's basically just settling the accounts. You estimated what you were going to pay, and whether you overpaid or underpaid, they figure that out. And so many of these companies already know exactly how much they paid into it. Now, the interesting thing is the judge is not, because you and I said, well, wait a minute, you're going to have to figure out. Okay, the company had to pay this amount in the tariff.
Right.
Well, how much did you raise prices? Because if you raise prices, you don't get that money. Judge isn't even worried about that.
Because what he's saying here is the liquidation process is all we have to worry about. Because if you think about what those importers paid, and if the at the end of it, and they will have 6 months to go through if they haven't gone through that liquidation process. Basically 6 months, 180 days to get those who haven't completed liquidation on these tariffs to go through that liquidation process to determine how much they are owed with interest. Now, he allowed the customs an extra 45 days to try and figure out how they're going to do this.
Okay. The executive director of the Customs Trade Policy and Programs Department wrote that each of these components, there's 4 different components in the software, are now between 40 and 80% developed.
Yeah, right. And that's what Judge Eaton was saying. Look, you know how to do this. That the process is already in place. Figuring out the rest of it, and this is what Customs is asking for, a little bit of extra time here. We need an extra 45 days so that we can get on top of this, roughly 6 weeks, so we can get on top of this and fulfill the order. I mean, comply with the order from the court. And that's going to be what's interesting here, because every day, as the judge mentions, there's interest that's tacked onto it. I don't know. None of the stories have mentioned how they've or if they've addressed lawyer fees on the companies that have filed.
You might have to file a lawsuit for that one.
Yeah, I would think that would be separate.
Damage it because
yeah.
These duties must now be refunded with interest. That's
interest.
A quote.
Yep.
And the clock is ticking, the judge wrote in the Friday order, which means every day that goes by, the American public is being taxed for the interest.
Yeah,
because that's nobody else out there. This is gonna hurt, the budget for this year, because the budget for last year, included the tariffs as part of it.
Right.
A part of it, and it was like, well, okay, we've lowered the deficit a little bit. That's going to blow that. The deficit's not going to be lower.
Right.
It's going to hurt tremendously. And then the Section 122? Now that's only supposed to bring in $36 billion estimated between now and 150 days. But I believe they've got a stronger legal case to reverse that than even this one.
Right.
I mean, it's slam dunk on that one. As the president saying it's the trade imbalance. No, it's the balance of payments. That's in the law. Balance of payments is not. I don't know if they're confusing it or just trying to convince the public of it, or they don't understand it, but it's easy to understand. They understand it. They know balance of payments is not, and as we explained to everybody, balance on the new tariffs that he wants to tariff on, and currently is tariffing in Section 122, he's doing it based on trade imbalance, but it's supposed to be balance of payments. And it's this simple. Just try to explain it in just 30 seconds or less. Balance of payments is you have a trade imbalance, okay? Let's say it's $1 trillion. I'm throwing out the figure of $1 trillion. I believe it's less, but $1 trillion. All right. Let's make it simple. It's $10. Okay, your trade imbalance is $10. You have your country has purchased $10 more, and so that foreign country or foreign businesses have $10 in their pocket. Well, they take that money and they invest it in the United States or buy Treasury bills. That means the balance of payments is zero because you've evened it out. When you have a trade imbalance, you have to do something with the currency. Just letting the currency sit, you lose. You got to do something with it. You either buy something American or you invest it in American business and or Treasury bills. There's really not much more you can do with it.
Right.
And so that's what balances it out.
Right.
And that's the balance of payments. And that's what Section 122 refers to.
Right.
So that isn't as much. It's only $35 billion in 150 days, but still they're going to have to refund that too.
Yeah. If this goes the way we think it's going to go.
And if the process is set up now, you know, you're talking about a total then of $166 billion with interest. Because I've seen anywhere from it started out at like $200 billion, then it was $130, now it's $166 with interest. I don't know.
Right.
What's the interest rate?
Yeah, I don't know.
But you're going to be at the $200 billion figure that has to be refunded if you get another $35 billion out of the Section 122 tariffs.
Right. Yeah, and it's once CBP has their process fully vetted and in place, then it's just going to keep rolling. Then there's just going to be massive amounts of money, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars going to these importers.
Okay, here it is. The interest is upping the price tag $650 million each month.
Okay. Yeah, I had seen that in one of the stories. I couldn't remember how much it was. Yeah. So asking for another 45 days. Customs asking for another 45 days. And that's what he granted. He said, okay. But just keep in mind, we're at a rate of $650 million per month in interest.
Now, here's the other thing. Any refunds are set to go to importers, but consumers have launched several proposed class action lawsuits against prominent companies in the hopes of forcing them to pass along any funds they receive.
That becomes a little more problematic and tedious, those suits. I don't know where that goes.
But I guess that's how you would work it out. You work it out by saying, okay, there's nothing. I'm a judge. I can't do anything about that. That's an indirect. That's an indirect tax. I can do something about a direct tax.
If the consumer wants to, to sue, they can sue on their own. We're talking about the direct fees paid as a result of the tariffs, and the fees are paid by the importers, and that's what it comes down to. Yes, ultimately it's passed along, but to what extent? Then you have to get into the books, right, of each and every importer with each and every product along the way, and all the way down to the retail level of what the consumer paid. Then the consumer pays, and the consumer, because of competition, might pay. So let's say they bring in 1 million widgets. Some of the widgets go to, I don't know, Amazon warehouse. Some of the widgets go to Target. Some of the widgets go to Walmart. Well, let's say Walmart doesn't want to pass it along. They want to stay competitive on that widget. And so that's going to be a loss leader for them. And they'll eat the cost of that, absorb that, but Target does not. So that gets into a very, that's a rabbit hole I wouldn't want to go down.
But then because remember they talked about financial losses. Mm-hmm. Can the importers then go back and sue the federal government for the financial losses, which would be separate?
The damage to the business model.
the damage to the business model, right? Because of lawsuits coming from consumers.
I guess they can sue all they want to. Let's see where.
Yeah,
it goes
they
in
can
the
sue.
courts.
Yeah, the question would be, would they succeed on it?
Right.
That
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Here at Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So that's a mess, a big mess. That is, and we had asked the question, if you talk about if it takes another year, and again, it would be the interest on the tariffs would be a scaling number based on what they took from day one.
Right.
But if it's $650 million based on the 166 billion each month, that would roughly be what $8 billion over the period of a year. No, because it would keep going up. The interest rate would be put on top of it.
Compounding,
so probably 9 billion a year.
Right,
so if you look at overall, I mean, it wouldn't be if the American taxpayer, after all the tariffs, end up having to pay $5 to $10 billion in interest.
And
on it.
Eaton again said we don't want to require them to file a suit. We want to work out a method by which those importers can make a claim. So basically, Customs set it up. You're already equipped to do this, where they can make a claim and get it started. And they're trying to figure out how to set it up for up to 75 million entries. Wow.
330,000 companies.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.